Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm here to have a look at the M48 A1 Patton. Welcome back to channel. If you're new here, we do a lot of tank reviews, a lot of streams, a lot of giveaways, a lot of jumping off stuff, a lot of shooting stuff. Just all round a place to be if you're in a tanking. Today the Patton is up for grabs because basically I'm doing a tier 10 series of all the mediums, and we've gone through quite a few so far: the 140, the 62A, the STB1. We've had a look at the 50M. We've had a look at quite a few. I wanted to talk about the Patton and why, at the moment, all round, this is probably the strongest tier 10 medium money can buy. And that might sound a little bit odd when you might know that I'm a big fan of the 62A. I really enjoy driving the FV4202. In fact, I like driving all the tier 10 mediums. There's just no two ways around it. Like, I love playing fast tanks with good damage per minute numbers. But the Patton in particular is gorgeous. It's a great tank. And it used to be called the red-headed stepchild of this tier because it really struggled. It had an enormous big weak spot on top of the turret that meant it made its job of going hull down very difficult because someone could quite literally just HE with a 150mm gun the top of your turret and they'd do good solid HE damage, or they could fire a bit of standard ammunition in there, and if they got lucky they'd penetrate and take a full damage roll, which is tough. And that's very tough at tier 10 when you're dealing with massive big monster tanks like E100s and 268s and 183s, and I mean, you can see the tanks that are in this game. There's a lot of big 150mm and up caliber guns. So what's a kid to do? Well, Wargaming finally got round to removing that and remodeling the turret, and much like they've done with the T110E5 now, it's changed the complexion of the tank completely, because the Patton is actually a tank that has all the skills. It's got gun depression, which is lovely. It's got good armor profile on its chassis, which is tough to find at tier 10 in a medium tank. And it's got a strong turret with a good gun mantlet. And that is also very, very tough to find at tier 10. You might have STB1s and such, which have reasonably strong turrets, and E50M, which have very, very flat turrets. But the Patton actually has a gun mantlet and then rounded sides so that it can go hull down and get a fair amount of bounces. And it's like the tank has been completely rejuvenated by the shave and a haircut method, like much like the E5. Like, you've got rid of that top turret and it's made the tank a very, very worthwhile proposition. Because when you're brawling in this monster, it actually brawls really well, in addition to being very, very good hull down. And you can see I'm just basically trying to find positions where I can go hull down and use the gun depression, make it a tougher pen, and make people who don't have gun depression, like that 183, go over the top of a rise to get the shots in on me, which is great as far as I'm concerned, because that means I get a free shot at them, they get a very, very tough shot at me, and we tend to do very, very well in those exchanges. The other thing I've always loved about this tank, and this is such a tank nerd thing, listen to the engine. The engine sounds glorious. It's like a big American car sound, like you'd expect on a big Yank V8 or something. And I know Raikkonen or someone's going to pull me up and say that's got nothing to do with it. But for me, as just a complete tanking noob, that's where it's at. And the mobility on the Patton's still fine and dandy for a tier 10 mech. It does the business, it gets it out. And I actually had a problem with this tank, much like I had with the E5 and the 62A. I couldn't stop driving it. I just kept driving it. I play mostly not in platoon on my contributor account. I think, where's the numbers on that? In the last 654 battles, I've been platooned for 14% of the time. So for the most part, I just play solo because I feel like that gives you a much better idea on how the tank performs. But I did actually play with Mojo the other day in platoon, and I played with Natty from Grump in platoon. And on those two occasions, rather than getting new tanks out that I wanted to drive, I drove the M48 A1 Patton and the T110E5. Like, I've already got footage for the E5's review, which is coming up, by the way, guys. And this was in the bag well and truly, and yet we still ran around Mojo and I in an M60 M48 platoon, and in keeping and in theme, Natty and I ran T110E4 for him and T110E5 for me, and both of them were a wailing barrel of laughs. I really enjoyed it. This is one of the things I like to do with this tank, is get out and spot, because your view range is excellent. Now, I'm running double rations at the moment on most of my tier 10 mediums, not because of, I think you get more value for money out of your protective kit, but the thing that double rations will do for you is it'll give you a little bit more view range. And the view range on this tank is outstanding. You can get it out to 313.6 meters with double rations and optics. And that means you're going to outspot a lot of those TDs that are sitting in the spawns, and you're going to be able to do it pretty safely, comparatively safely, compared to, say, an STB-1 or one of those tanks, because your turret is just strong, but you've also got a strong chassis. And you can see what I'm doing here is, look at the tank go with the gun depression. You can get shots off all over the place. I'm using that turret in really awkward way, and it's killing this poor old IS-7, because he doesn't have the gun depression to get down. He can't hit me anywhere else with the turret. I'm underneath the gun. I'm just really wailing in here, and he is in all sorts. And I can't reverse there because the IS-7's blocking me. A bit of a miscommunication on the part of me. Get around there, put another one in, and we're off to the races. And that's what I love doing in this tank, putting it in positions where the gun depression makes life tough for everyone else, but not so much for me. It's a hard-headed human. It looks like it's a little hard hat with a gun poking out the front, doesn't it? It's really, really solid. It was for a long time the favourite tank of one of the guys that I was clanmate with in Storm, Path. He was been in videos years ago. He used to drive this thing like a maniac, and he was an outstanding player, still is. Patho is excellent. And he was a massive fan of the Patton all those days back. And I've found just an incredible affinity for anything that has gun depression and a decent turret. And even if it doesn't have a decent turret, I've just become such a massive fan of gun depression on tanks. And it's obvious if you've watched the channel for a while that that's the case, but even more so now in a meta that's very much dominated by lots of big tanks at tier 10, having gun depression allows you to peek and get shots off without exposing your lower glacis and your upper glacis too much. And that's a much safer way of going about your business than, say, in a 62A where you've got to poke out and find the right position. Now, that's not saying that I don't enjoy a good bit of Russian medium play, because anyone who's watched the channel knows that that's absolutely not the case. And in fact, I'm in a horrible position at the moment where I've got a 6300, a 4900 and a 4300 mastery game in the 62A sitting in the bank, and I can't use them because I've just done a 62A video and they're going to be bringing out a buff to the 62A's gun. I just don't know what I'm going to do with them. Again, firing on the move is another key aspect of this tank. It's very, very good at firing on the move. It's got good firing on the move coefficients, and it makes the tank work a treat. And again, here I am, hull down on the flank, missing shots. It doesn't have amazing gun handling in terms of accuracy, and the aim time's 3.1. The gold star for aim time at the moment at this tier would be, well, realistically it's a 62A. The 121 has good aim time as well, but the 62A is really where it's at if you're looking at a proper fast firing, high DPM medium. And you can get that down to 2.2 seconds. I mean, you can run it at 2.4 seconds and 0.244 dispersion or something at the moment before the next buff comes up, because it's going to get a buff every day. 105 millimeters of alpha is good for this tank, and it also gives you access to a HE shell that has 440 alpha as high explosive. The sneaky dog at this tier with the high alpha HE is the E50M. It has 450 HE on its alpha, which is pretty good. You might not realize this, but 440 alpha is actually quite good on your HE. The Leopard 1 has 400 alpha on its HE, and they've all got 105mm guns. It's just something that's a tiny little differentiating factor. You won't have it coming up very often, but when you're fighting, say, a grill and you want to HE its turret, then that's really, really handy. Not really a surprise, I guess, if you didn't realise this, but I'll tell you anyway. The 62A has 420 alpha on its HE rounds on a 310 millimeter shell, 310 alpha shell. So it does pretty well in the HE stakes as well. And again, I don't know why the team... This is the strong position that I'm in here, and I'm doing my level best to use as much APCR as I can. But look, you'll get people who'll carry on about, oh, you fired premium ammunition. Don't let them phase you. You can see that IS-4. He's not going to come out sideways to give me a free shot. And I'm going to fire ammo that is going to give me the best opportunity to actually pen him. Because if I don't, then I'm literally giving him a free game of win. If they don't come out sideways for you, then fire promo. And if you're in a tier 10 medium at the moment and you're not going to run calibrated shells, and for the purposes of this tank, I'm not running calibrated shells. I go up and down on calibrated shells in my tier 10 meds at the moment because the DPM is so important. It's your one big edge on most of these other tanks you're fighting. And it's really, really hard to justify calibrated shells, although in this situation you'd absolutely love them. But when you're being quite aggressive with the tank, that's when you want your DPM. So I play both styles, and I've actually just got, I'm doing an FE4202 vid at the moment, and I run calibrated shells on that. And you know, I've got some vids coming up and I'm doing the business in it, and that's because of Hesh. It gets a massive bonus to high explosive. Again, this is just prime time M48 A1 Patton, right? This is where you want to be. And they're going on, I'm like, stop pushing. Like, what is Pitbull doing, says E50. The Pitbull is just sitting over here, constantly putting damage into people. And for some reason, these guys found 7 camping reds and Pit moved to spot. Like, I didn't need to move to spot because you guys, look where you died. You died going around a corner on 7 camping reds. Like, they were sitting there right in front of you, and rather than pick them off and grind them down, you decided to drive into the middle of them. You're all dead in the middle of these reds, like, for no reason. Anyway, here we go. We're moving across. We've done all the good stuff at the back. We've used the hit point pools of the guys that were just YOLOing and basically had free shots. Like, we didn't really stop firing. And now we're going to move up here and clear the E75 and the other M48. I'd like to clear that M48 first, thanks very much. And then we're going to do the E75, and yeah, pretty much all round the right way to play the game. That's the M48. Now I'm going to show you one more game, okay? And you can see how often I'm using the gun depression on this tank and how effective that gun depression is. It's really, really amazing. If you learn how to use gun depression, you will be just that you'll have a friend for life. And this is a map where I have more success. I could have shown you 4 games in a row of me on vineyards just farming up damage using the gun depression on either side of the map. And there are various spots around here. You're going to see a couple of them I use in the T110E5 video that's coming up. And there you go, apropos nothing. That guy asked earlier how was the 121, and I said 121 is terrible. You're going to see a couple of the spots that I use in this video, and when the E5 video comes out, you'll probably see a few of my favorite spots on vineyards as well. And they're changing the map, so I don't know how valuable these are going to be in the long term. But maps like this are great because they give you gun depression positions that are actually quite close to the enemy line. And that's great because you can utilize then the really good turret armor and good chassis armor of a tank like the M48A1, and also do it like, you know, with good spots. You can use your view range and you can get shots off and all that kind of stuff. Now, the reason I said that this tank I think is the best all-round medium at tier 10, at least for public battles, and quite often I think you'd take this over an STB1 anyway, is your armor profile. So let's talk about the armor profile just for a second. you're looking at a tank that is not supremely well armored. Okay, it's very, very awkward. But if you're at 9 degrees of gun depression and you're going and cresting over a top of a hill, it amplifies the value of your armor profile by a massive amount. It means that you're far more likely to get a bounce when a tank is shooting up at you as you crest a ridge and use your gun depression to shoot down at them. And that's just common sense. But when you actually have to brawl, if you get up close to other tanks, it means they have to take the time. And you can see I'm just HEing the top of that 121. He has no gun depression, by the way. He's got 5 degrees of gun depression. And he has a really good game. And I actually give him a thumbs up at the end of this because I think he plays that tank very, very well. Swiss Cheesel is another one that plays the 121 very well. But anyway, I digress. If you get up close and personal with this tank, the armor profile, while not like automatically going to bounce stuff, means that you are able to intimidate tanks and make them take a long time to aim their shot. And you move the turret around, you move the chassis around, and it's an awkward pen. And what that does is it minimizes their damage per minute number. It means that they have to take longer to get their shots off. They do less damage. You get more shots to their shots. And that means you win more often. So if you've got a brawl, an STB1, sure, it has a strongish turret, no stronger than the M48A1s. It's got the same kind of gun handling. It's got the same view range, basically, and the same kind of mobility. But it doesn't have the chassis. It just simply doesn't have the chassis that the M48A1 has. And it doesn't, for me, have that sex appeal, that big engine going on. It does look like a Leopard 1 on the butt, which is good, because the Leopard 1 is a hot, hot, hot looking tank. All I'm doing this map, and the reason I didn't just show you a whole bunch of 4K plus Vineyards games, is because this is basically the game. Find a spot where you can use gun depression, constantly reset your camo, move around, shoot people from camo, use gun depression, heat them if you can't pen them with APCR, HE them if you can't pen them with heat. Profit. Like, I've hit that poor old 121 a couple of times now. He's never going to get that cap sorted while I'm here firing from stealth, and he's actually done really, really well over there to consistently put damage back into my team. But the Patton's just a beast. It's an absolute freaking beast. It really is. The 121 finally gets a kill on the 140, and he's been quietly farming my team over there quite successfully. He's got 2 kill shots now, and he is a good player, and I absolutely salute him for the effort that he puts in on that flank. But the 121 is all well and good, but gun depression, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely king. I can't say this often enough. The ceiling for your DPM in, say, a 62A is great, because you have massive, massive DPM, 3700 DPM, which is much better than the Pattons. But gun depression allows you to bring your DPM to bear and to actually... We didn't take a single point of damage that game, the entire game. The entire game, because we are able to safely hull down, shoot, and pull back before anyone else can do anything. And even though that was not quite 4,000 damage, I thought that was the best example of an M48A1 Patton that I could find of just farming using gun depression, a strong turret, and game mechanics to reset camo. That's the M48A1, guys. You cannot go wrong with this tank. It is a great tank. It is a lovely drive, and it's a tank that I highly recommend as a tier 10 medium. If you know what you're doing, if you know your way around the maps, and if you know the spots to get to, and you can use your imagination to create shots out of a really, really interesting armor and gun depression profile, this is the tank for you. Rock on, humans. Look after yourselves. Make sure to watch the streams. Stick around for more tanking justice, and until next time, stay safe on the battlefield.